Hello, I am Noe Chavez.
I am Kimbellisimo.
I'm a filmmaker.
And I do heart work and help people transform their lives, get out of their head, open their heart, and bring in the wholeness in the loving, living light of Christ.
And I'm currently working on a documentary with this lady to show all that, all her work, and all the things to learn from being Christ-centered.
Yes.
So today we are at, what's this trail again?
Cypress.
Cypress. Should we walk?
Yes, and you know, just to let you know what cypress means, cypress is actually the cypress trees along this trail. That means when there's a transition that happens, usually they're at cemeteries, cypress trees, and it means the ending of something to begin your eternal transition, the eternal. So it's referencing the vertical, the eternal life. And all exist side by side in space, meaning, especially now, I think, you know, people are getting a reflection of, you know, maybe they get traumatized, but it's something from the past, or they're thinking about the future. But we want to kind of own the heart space because it allows us to be and occupy the eternal, and that's where you can experience the Christ within.
It's funny, I was listening to the Bible today most of the morning, and I think I heard Jesus say, "Eat my flesh and you will live eternally."
Yeah.
He said that like 10 times, and I was like, gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. So just to kind of do a recap, and from where our journey's been and starting this, we were talking about, you know, our relationship with God and how Mary said yes to God and how she brought Christ in. And then last time we talked about how Mary created, you know, God chose her because of her womb, the fruit of her womb, meaning that she nurtured that space, protected that space, and how we can do that within space, within our own space and the space we're in. And so I thought, you know, today we would talk about, see what you think, is, you know, continually moving, focusing on the Christ within our heart. And when we are fully embodied, now we can occupy the moment, the present time. But in Mary's kind of reflection of being here, how she, in a way, would deal with demons, serpents. And she would put them on the ground, you know, and maybe we should do our little dance together here.
Yeah.
And just to make the intro of, you know, what we are talking about.
Yeah.
Stomp, crush, ground.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, everybody, what does Mary do when there's a serpent, when there's fear and doubt? She stomps, crush, ground. She brings a demon down. She stomps, crush, grounds. She brings a demon down. She stomps, she crush, she grounds. She brings a demon down.
All right. And so anytime we are hit with anything in our space and those serpents are flying around, you got to get them down. So what do? We stomp, crush, ground, bring the demon down. Stomp, crush, ground, bring the demon down.
Woohoo!
I like God burst.
God burst. I like Kim's look when she's dancing. She's looking fierce. That's what I'm gonna add to my dance. I'm gonna add some fierceness.
Well, I think too, when we are dealing with demons, what happens is they start flying around, and what do? They go after our pictures. And what are our pictures? Our thoughts. And so
how do we like really you know, what's the word, thoroughly burn our pictures? Because I feel that many times I'll burn pictures, but I feel like they still, like, I haven't gotten to all of them, or they're not fully burned.
Right. Let's talk about again recap of pictures, and let me know when you need me to hold that too.
Yeah.
The recap of pictures is a thought, a belief, And I was just even talking to somebody earlier where they were with their parent, and in that moment their parent started freaking out, kind of going delusional, but it really wasn't. It was where they had trauma in their past and they kept saying, "You're gonna abandon me," but it had nothing to do with the moment. So we all have experiences like this when we're with people and the person seems crazy, but it is trauma that comes up and their past is happening in the moment, in that present time. And if we're seeing that, we know it's not kind of connected to us. This is where we can start tapping our foot. Maybe you can't say stomp, crush, ground, bring the demon down. But when you start to stomp your foot, what starts to happen is the snakes moving around start moving into the ground, because you're calling Mary in. That's what she did. She has the serpent crushed under her foot. And in Genesis, it talks about the woman will come, you know, at the end, serpent under her foot. And that means we do not believe the pictures, the lies. We're not going to engage with thoughts that create anxiety and fear. So why don't you tell us, Noe, maybe even some pictures of, you know, thoughts that you may have, that you've had, and how that then that serpent will bite that picture, it'll move in that picture.
Totally.
And then how does that express in your world? Everyone has this.
Totally. So, you know, a big picture that happens, I'd say like once a month, maybe, like for sure yesterday and the last 2 days, is that, you know, I feel this sort of like I don't say loss of communication to God, but there's definitely like a lot of energy in the world or in my space, and I'm unsure if I'm like releasing a lot, and I'm unsure if I'm like doing the right thing to, you know, that God.
Doubt. So you doubt
there's
yourself.
a doubt about my communication, my connection to God.
Yes.
And then I end up doing a lot, you know. I end up, you know, running to nature like really early in the morning when maybe I should be resting, you know.
And you don't know what to do.
And I don't know what to do.
Sounds like there's confusion.
There's confusion, yeah.
And maybe the doubt is, what do I do? And then under doubt, there's typically fear. You know, fear of maybe being overtaken. You may not have identified it. And so even, it's like what even our language is with the serpent of doubt, we stomp, we crush, we ground it out, you know. And so with the serpent of fear, it's more about our response. And the response is we move it down on the ground, crush, stomp, ground. When you do that now, we're not engaging, because if a serpent gets you to engage, and now we're having a conversation. So for example, if you see, it's about trust with God in a way. It's like you have, what do I do? Doubt, not sure which choice. Maybe fear, I better go do something because, you know, the serpent's gonna get me here. And now we're not choosing God, trusting God. And this is where, you know, dropping in our heart, seeing the Christ within. And that's where it all begins. You know, so this stuff flies around everyone's space. And this is a tool that you can deal with in handling spaces. I had a client yesterday tell me that she was in a meeting and the whole meeting started to go sideways. And it going sideways, she's under the table, you know, stomping. The lights start flickering. The lamp, the chandelier goes out. And there was a serpent in that space, and it was trying to divide everyone. Because we have to know the nature of serpents. What is fear, doubt, divide? You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I actually have a question.
Yeah.
So with serpents, you know, as you know, demons, as we know, have more intellect than humans. Do serpents also possess sort of that trait as well?
Yeah, they're a type of demon.
They're a type of demon?
Yeah, they're a demon.
Yeah.
And so usually they'll come in, and that's what they're good at. The serpent came in, and Adam and Eve, you know, and what did the serpent do? Divide Adam and Eve. And now what are we listening to? Because that was kind of the fall of Eve. What did she listen to? She listened to the serpent. Then what was her response? She picked the apple. What did she do then? gave the apple? And how are we, you know, in a way, what are we listening to, maybe, is the question.
Yeah.
In our lives, what are we listening to?
Absolutely. What are we listening to?
Is this a demon I'm listening to? Because it could be your mother, your brother, your friend. They could have been kind of around you your whole life, but if they get bit, now they're down, and you are dealing with a serpent, and you better know what you're dealing with, because in doing that, now you got a tool. Stomp, crush ground.
Bring the demon down. Mary brings the demon down.
Yeah.
Question about discernment.
Yeah.
So I was at church. I went to mass this morning, and I was asking for Mary, all the saints, you know, God, Jesus, for just increased discernment. Like, is there a saint that you go for to discernment? How do you increase your discernment?
I open to the wisdom of my heart, and I invite the Christ within, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And then, you know, I'll ask kind of the intercession of, you know, like even the intercession of Mary comes in. If I'm feeling something, you know, like a current in the space, I'll have her kind of go out in the space, stepping on the serpent.
Yeah.
And that's a relationship. So, you know, it's not like I'm in my mind. I get more in the heart and get more into relationship, you know, as opposed to thought. Is it working? Is it not? What do I do? Who do I bring in? It's kind of like you're saying, what saint do I choose? What saint do I, you know?
It's like, am I supposed to go into nature and get an update right now? What am I missing?
Well, when you go into the heart, now you're connected to all things.
Yeah.
You know, and you're connected in the vertical is what I mean. You're connected in the eternal. And in that, there is no divide. There isn't, do I do this or that? When you connect into your heart, you're in the eternal, meaning that you have access to all things. And here is what I think, you know, people need to know. In any moment, you will see the past. You will see a reflection of the future. You will see an ending, what you don't want. You'll see maybe a reflection of what you do want. All exist within the space. But when you drop into your heart, you open up to the Holy Spirit, you open up to grace. And with that, then, you are whole.
Absolutely.
You are unified.
Yeah.
Now we don't have that question. You may have your mind doing the question, whatever.
Yeah, what ends up happening is that whatever you decide to do in that wholeness is the correct step.
Yeah, yeah. It is, you know, all exist at the same time.
Yeah.
All are existing, and you can just allow it to be.
And Kim, I'm telling you, I feel that, like what you just said, I feel it the most when like I'm making lunch, and like, you know, of course at the beginning I'll be like, well, what am I gonna put on the salad? You know what? I'm gonna drop into the heart, and then the most beautiful salad comes out of it, and it just feels so nourishing when I just drop into the heart.
Well, and maybe, you know, it's kind of like, I think that is an interesting kind of story of where even the mind kind of comes in when you're eating. Like, you know, maybe you want to share that story. Like,
yeah.
How does the mind come into what you're eating and digesting?
Well, I've come a long way, but thanks to some sessions with Kim Bellisimo, book a session, I've come a long way with the mind sort of taking over. What was happening, you know, critically in the past was that, oh, like this food is high on oxalates. This food is, you know, it's got too much phosphorus, you know, this food has got, you know, not the right acid to, you know, alkaline, you know, percentage ratio. So it's like all these things that I picked up in my history through like the naturopaths that I've met and the health things that I've learned, and that stuff sort of just takes over and it just piles on, and I all
Too
of a
much
sudden,
information.
I have all this energy on my head, and I'm just over here exhausted, just tired. And then, you know, I'm eating my energy back, you know, out of my plate to try and get, you know, my energy back. So,
and I think too, this is what, you know, whether it's food, digesting of emotions, you know, like, and like trying to call in our energy back. I think a lot of people now feel this fear, this anxiety, or they feel, I don't know what to do, and just tell me what to do. That's why a lot of people will go to some psychic or something, because they just want to be told what to do, because they can't discern, they don't understand. But if you understand the heart, because Christ is of the heart, and the heart knows how to navigate time, space, and it knows how to navigate the eternal. And so that is what this heart wisdom is about.
Yeah.
That is this journey with the Christ within.
And I always love that tool that you shared in a past Moon Magic, where we have Archangel Michael help hold us in the eternal with his light sword.
You know, and calling kind of him to come in and really just fight off the demons. The recap of the journey we've been on the mountain, we've been walking for days talking about this journey, is our relationship with God. And it started with looking at Mary's relationship to God and her responding yes. And then that second day is where she was the fruit of thy womb, which is she was holy in a sense of wholeness, God choosing her to bring the Christ within, which is our journey to bringing the Christ within. And then now what we looked at today is kind of Mary's journey of how does she deal with snakes, because Eve, you know, listened to the snake, picked the apple, gave it to Adam, and now the break happened. And so Mary moves the serpents down. And what is a serpent? Fear, doubt. What is a serpent? A thought, a belief about yourself that you are not whole, a belief that you don't have the light, that you somehow are, you know, some weird thought that you are not right.
Weird thought. Yeah. Kim, I gotta tell you, I just had a victory right now. So when I grabbed my water bottle to take a sip, you know, this thought came in like, oh, you're depleting your minerals or whatever, you know. And then so I started just doing the stomp dance while walking, and I gotta tell you, the relief was real.
Well, and a part of you know, it's kind of like that was a good example, Noe, and that was a good example
Depleting my electrolytes, my butt.
of OCD.
Yeah. But it's removed. It's not me.
No, it's not. It's not. Those thoughts are not us.
Like, I'm looking at them, like, what do I do? And I'm stopping them.
We can let the thoughts be.
Yeah.
Because it is not our reality. So we stomp. We crush. We ground. We bring the demon down. And that is what Mary showed us, is she shows us, and in Genesis it talks about the woman at the end of time coming in, crushing the serpent, the head of the serpent. And really we want to bring those thoughts down, because when we bring them down to the ground, when we move them into hell, you know, that is where they need to be, not in our reality. And so dropping that down means we are not engaging. We have a thought, let it be.
Yeah.
That is not our reality. That's our song. When you have a thought, let it be. It is not our reality.
When you have a thought, let it be. It is not our reality.
There's a God burst.
That's a God burst.
So,
Kim's a professional jingle creator, crafter. So please reach her at 1-800 Kim Jingles.
God jingles. I like God jingles.
Correction, 1-800 God Jingles.
God. Exactly.
Standard message rates apply.
So we would love to see your performance of Stomp, Crush, Ground. She brings the demon down. And let us know what happens when you're in a space and energy is flying all around, and now it hit you. Now you feel fear and doubt, and what choice to choose. What do I do? You know, you let it be, so you are free. You let that thought be, and you are free.
You let that thought be, and you are free.
Yeah, because we don't engage with the serpent. We drop it down on the ground. And in doing that, now we are focusing on the Christ within, which our channel name is, the Christ within. And Noe's matching the colors of our banner today. He looks like Ranger Rick. The Christ within.
At your service.
So your life begins.